very beautifully by Swami Sarvapriyananda in the last few days. And we had already 5 talks that were very inspiring. Tonight is the last talk, and we are going to welcome Swami Sarvapriyananda. Let's welcome him.
ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्ताक्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. Yes, Om, peace, peace. So in this final talk, instead of making it a concluding talk, I wanted to make it a continuing talk. So we have seen the Mandukya Upanishad, the 12 mantras, and a few karikas by Gaudapada. But I also mentioned that Gaudapada wrote these karikas, these verses, in 4 chapters. So what we have seen is the first chapter. And in case you are wondering what was Gaudapada up to in the other 3 chapters, some wonderful insights into spiritual life. So that's what I'll talk about this evening, so that it encourages us to investigate further, to study further, to look it up further. The second chapter, in the second, third and fourth chapters, Gaudapada carries on the same theme, but in the second chapter what Gaudapada does is, when you say the world is false, the world is an appearance, what exactly do you mean and how can you prove it? Because it seems to be really very, very real, really real to us, the world. So how can you prove it with logic? So that is the theme of chapter 2, Vaitatya Prakarana. Vaitatya Prakarana means the chapter on falsity. And chapter 3 is logical exploration of non-duality, Advaita Prakarana. Gaudapada explains how non-duality is logical. And then in the last chapter, there are various topics discussed, various other philosophical points of view. Alata Shanti Prakarana, the chapter on the quenching of the firebrand. But anyway, what I'll do this evening is pick out one verse, just one verse, from Gaudapada's second chapter, the Vaitatya Prakarana, the chapter on falsity, where Gaudapada does not hesitate to say shocking things, stunning things. So this verse, which I'll take up, it's one of the most shocking. We already know the Mandukya Upanishad, the central teaching. It's an exploration of our experience of life, of ourselves. So ourselves are understood as having 4 aspects: waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and the real aspect, pure consciousness, which is the ground of the other 3. So I've repeated it enough. By now you all know, yes, go on, we know what you're going to say. So we are the pure consciousness in which we experience ourselves as a waker, experiencing a waker's world, a dreamer, experiencing dreams, and deep sleep, experiencing, I'll say within quotes, experiencing the blankness of deep sleep. In another way it is put, the 3 aspects are the gross aspect, that is the physical aspect, when we experience a physical world out there, forms and sights and sounds and smell and touch. That's one. The second aspect is the subtle aspect, where everything is within the mind. Dreams are within the mind. And the third one is the causal aspect. In Sanskrit, karana. Causal aspect, the deep sleep state is called the causal state, because it's seen as a seed from which the waking and dream emerge. So cause and effect. Waking and dream are called the effect, karya, and deep sleep is called the cause, karana in Sanskrit. Or causal, subtle and gross. Karya, the karana, the causal, subtle is sukshma and the gross is sthula. So this is the way the three aspects of our experience which are well known to us. And what the Upanishad said, all of these three are appearing and disappearing before you, the pure consciousness. Not only before you, in you, the pure consciousness. And these three have no existence apart from you, the pure consciousness, just as the ornaments have no existence apart from the gold which constitutes them. This much we know. In the second chapter, the verse I am going to quote is the 32nd verse. Chapter 2, verse number 32. Chapter 2, verse number 32. It goes like this. Na nirodho na cha utpatti, na baddho na cha sadhaka, na mumukshur na vai muktaha, ityesha paramarthata. Wait for it. There is no cessation, no origination. Nobody who is in bondage, nobody who is a spiritual seeker, nobody who is liberated or seeking liberation, nobody who is seeking liberation or liberated. What's this? Such is the ultimate truth. Ityesha paramarthata. Shocking. See, the way we have understood the entire spiritual quest, Gaudapada seems to turn it upside down completely. What is the story that we know? Buddha, for example, puts it very well. There is suffering, dukkha, first noble truth. And there is a cause of suffering, our desires, trishna. And there is an escape, a freedom from suffering, nirvana. And there is a way to do it. Spiritual practices, the eightfold way, marga or ashtanga marga. Now this is just like a doctor tells you, here is the disease, it has a cause, it has a cure, and it has a treatment. So that's basically the outline of the spiritual path as we know it. We know we are in bondage. Here I am, here is this body, and I seem to be identified, trapped with this body. It is changing, aging, disease and death and suffering are there. I am in this world, people are nasty to me, rude to me, mean to me, and I suffer. And my fortunes go up and down with the Wall Street index, the stock market. All of this happens. I seek fulfillment and I'm frustrated. Maybe I get something and that's not enough. Maybe I do not get what I want and I get what I do not want. All of these things happen in life and this is bondage, and I'm told on top of this, this is not the only time. I have done this many times earlier and I'm yet to do this many more times. There's this cartoon I saw where this American, I think I mentioned it, American guy is talking to an Indian guy and the American guy says, I'm a born again Christian. And the Indian guy says, I'm a born again and again and again Hindu. Whether Hindu or Buddhist or all the Indian philosophies, they all believe in many lives. That we have had many lives earlier, and until we get liberation, until we get moksha, until we become illumined, we will continue to repeat this. Maybe not the exact same thing, but variations on this theme with more or less the same results. So maybe a little better sometimes, a little worse sometimes. And this will go on until we learn to realize what we truly are. There was a joke I read. When you go for this medical insurance, in America it's terrible. Lots of paperwork and everything. You have to go for medical insurance. They'll ask you a lot of questions about your health, your previous illnesses and so on. So there's this joke. It says, one of the questions, and if you are a Buddhist, what was the cause of your last death? Cause of your last death. So the idea is that we are in bondage. We know this is called samsara. This is what is going on, and we are trapped in this. Gaudapada says, no bondage. Not only this, we know that we do spiritual practices. We want liberation. We have heard of people who are enlightened, who are liberated. The Buddha is one of them, and so many others. Religion promises us deliverance from suffering in different ways. Some promise heaven, some promise nirvana, some promise many ways, salvation. But in many ways, religion does promise a freedom from suffering. And we want it. And for that we do things. We practice. We do yoga and meditation and prayer and study and good works. We believe in religion, belong to churches, so many things that we do. Spiritual practice. And here is Gaudapada saying, there is no liberation. There's nobody who's liberated. And there's nobody who's a spiritual practitioner. There's no spiritual practice. But remember, at the end he adds, from the ultimate point of view. From the ultimate point of view. What is the ultimate point of view? The point of view of the fourth. Waking, dreaming, deep sleep, from the point of view of the fourth. Ityesha paramarthata. This is the ultimate truth. Before we go into this, there is a mature way of handling a verse like this, and there is an immature way. The immature way is, and there are people, I have actually come across such people, who become overexcited. See, if you don't like this kind of teaching, you are safe. But if you like it, one hazard is one becomes overexcited and over-enthusiastic about it. Oh, now I have the highest truth. What was I doing for so long? Meditating and praying and practicing. Oh, stop all that. All that's useless. Gaudapada has told me there's no spiritual practice. I am Brahman. Done. I don't know what's done, but you are done. That's the immature way of handling it. I met this person when I was in Gangotri in the Himalayas. You meet all kinds of interesting people there. People who stay in caves and in huts, and people with long hair and dreadlocks, people who are shaven-headed, people with long beards, and people with no hair at all, and people dressed in orange or red or black or white. So all kinds of different orders, spiritual seekers of many kinds, yogis, and so many. So there was this gentleman who was staying in the hut next to mine, and he had come from a town called Dehradun, and he was a disciple of a guru. Actually, I'll tell you what, when I met him, he was reading Ashtavakra, and I was reading Ashtavakra too. This is the highest text of non-dualism. But often it spells trouble if you don't handle it well. It's full of verses like this. This verse which I just said, Ashtavakra is full of verses like this. So this gentleman was reading it, and then we got talking, and he said he was so happy. He said, this is the real truth. At last I've come to this. I'm the disciple of, my guru never told me about this. I said, who's your guru? And he told the name of a monk who I know is a very good sadhu, wonderful practitioner, seeker in Dehradun. I know he's very good. What does your guru do? Well, my guru, he does these fasts and these bhajans, and he worships the tulsi plant in the courtyard, and so many other things, rituals, and this is the highest truth. Rituals and all these things are not necessary. They're so low. And he never told me about this. So I asked him, does your guru know this book? Yeah, I found it in his library. So do you think he has read it? I think he has. And after reading this also, he's doing all the rituals and the meditation and the fasting. He said, yeah, that's true. There's an immature way of handling this, and there's a mature way. Spiritual practices. See, when we understand the meaning of this verse, we will actually have a deeper understanding of spiritual life. What is bondage? What is freedom? What is spiritual practice? And what is the desire to be free? All these things we will understand much better. What is the whole nature of spiritual quest? That we will understand. Let me take it up one by one quickly. He says, there is no origination, no destruction. Origination of the universe, neither origination nor cessation. Na nirodho na cha utpatti. What could he mean? Consider our old example, the pot. So when the potter shapes the clay into a pot, the clay pot, Has a part been produced? Our immediate reaction is, yes, of course, a part has been produced. But think about it in terms of reality. You have this thing called clay, and now the potter says, I have produced a pot. Is it a new thing apart from the clay which has been produced? Is there a new entity? No. We know that. It is the clay alone with a new name and a new function and a new form. We call it a pot. Somebody said, well, yes, you're right, but there is both clay and pot. No, there isn't. If there was both, look at the word both, means two. Can you count two? Here is clay and here is pot. No, you can't. Countably, there is only one. So there is actually, really speaking, a real second entity, countably second entity has not been produced. There is no beginning, no origination of a new entity called pot. That's why when Advaita Vedanta says world is false and Brahman alone is real, what it means is, it's not that it's denying this experience. What Advaita means is, you realize all of this as Brahman and realize what you're seeing here does not exist apart from Brahman. Not entirely relevant, but a very deep point I'll share with you. What I've been saying all along is Advaita Vedanta, non-dual Vedanta. But there are many schools of Vedanta. There is Vishishta Advaita, qualified monism. There is Dvaita Vedanta, dualistic Vedanta. There are multiple schools, several schools of Vedanta, and they have different interpretations. So just for those who are interested, a little aside. I heard it from a great scholar of dualistic Vedanta. Basically, what's the difference? Non-dual Vedanta is what we have been studying, and we know what it says. You are Brahman. And the entirety of this universe, the appearance, and the differences, they are all appearance. They are not real. Only you as Brahman are real. Vishishta Advaita Vedanta, whose great teacher is Ramanuja, what's the interesting thing that he says? How is it different? He says, no, it's not that the world is false and you alone are Brahman. No. Brahman is the totality of which we are parts. You are not Brahman, but you are a part of Brahman. You are not God. You are a part of God. God is the organic unity of the entire universe. So there is one divine reality of which the entire universe is a part. So there are sentient parts like ourselves, and there are insentient parts of God, like this table and chair and the sun and the moon. All of these are parts of God. Not one with God, not identical with God. Not Brahman. You cannot say, I am Brahman, but I am a part of Brahman. Yes. You are Brahman in the sense a ray of light is the sun. Yes, it's the sun, but it's a tiny part of the sun. What does dualistic Vedanta say? Dvaita Vedanta. It says that there is one supreme Lord. It's very similar to, say, Christianity or the Abrahamic religions. There's one supreme Lord, and we are all different from that Lord. And the Lord is our master, our ruler, like the king, and we are all subjects. We are entirely dependent on the Lord God. So God is separate from us. You cannot say that you are one with God. Sacrilege. Absolutely not. You cannot even say you are a part of God. No. God is different. That is the Lord, and we are the worshippers. We depend on the Lord. The Lord is the only independent entity, and we are all dependent upon the Lord. So these three approaches, for example. Now the interesting insight I want to share with you is this. A scholar of Dvaita Vedanta, last one, Varkhedi, Srinivas Varkhedi, in India, he gave an interesting insight which I've never heard anywhere else. He said, to the same text, if you ask three different questions, you will get these three different systems. If you ask, what is real and what is false, what is real and what is unreal, you get Advaita Vedanta. To the Upanishad, if you ask, what's real? Brahman is real. What's unreal? Difference, the world, separation, unreal. You are Brahman. Advaita Vedanta. If you ask the question, what is the whole and what is a part? You will get the Vishishta Advaita Vedanta. Brahman is the whole of which you are all parts. We are all parts of the divine. If you ask, what is the one independent supreme authority and we are all dependent on that reality, that is Dvaita Vedanta, dualistic Vedanta. So it is his insight. Not a bad insight, pretty new way of looking at the same thing. Anyway, here we are talking about the first approach, non-dualistic Vedanta. Gaudapada, Shankara, they are all firmly in the non-dualistic camp. You are that ultimate reality. When we experience a snake in a rope, we mistake a rope to be a snake. Did a snake originate? Was a snake born when there were eggs out of which a little snake came and then it grew and started wriggling on top of the rope? No, not at all. There's no snake there at all. It's a mistake. There's only the rope. So no snake originated. And when you became enlightened, was the snake killed? Did you chase it away with a stick or something? No. There is no origination of that snake and no cessation of that snake either. In the same way, there is no origination of samsara and there is no cessation of samsara. Here is another deep point. What is the nature of this samsara? If you ask a dualistic school of Vedanta, they will say it's real. God has created this world. If you ask Advaita Vedanta generally, Shankara for example, he'll say Brahman alone is real, but because of Maya, Brahman appears in this form. Because of sleep, you have dreams. Your mind alone appears as all the creatures in the dream. In the same way, Brahman appears in all these forms. Gaudapada goes one step further. Gaudapada goes one step further. He says, there is no samsara at all. There is no origination, no cessation. So Gaudapada's approach has a special term. It is called ajati or ajatavada, the doctrine of non origination. Shankara's idea is nothing really originated, but because of Maya it's been projected. Gaudapada says no projection, forget the projection business. There is only Brahman. There is no, all that appears has no intrinsic reality of its own. In Gangotri I met this monk, very strong non-dualist. He passed away a few years ago, but he has been there for 40 years. So I used to go and attend classes under him, the Ashtavakra classes. He told us a story that many years ago, a television crew came to Gangotri. Gangotri is the place where the river Ganga originates, high up in the Himalayas. So Gomukh is the place where it originates actually, but it flows down into Gangotri. And Gangotri itself, it's a valley, but it's 10,000 feet high in the Himalayas. Now the story is, what he told me was, a television crew came to take pictures of that place. And because that Swami had been there for 40 years, he had never seen this new technology, television. So they wanted to show him what it's like. So they rigged up a generator and they put a TV set and they pointed the camera at the river. And the Swami was telling us, childlike, he was telling us, monks in the Hindi, Mahatmas, I saw everything in that little box. The river is there and it makes a gurgling sound also. And then I asked the gentleman, the TV gentleman, could I have a glass of Ganga water from that? And then the gentleman said, oh Swami, there is nothing there, it just looks like that. And then the teacher, the master, turned to all of us who were sitting there, still remember, a piercing look into each of us, and he says, so, my dear monks, all of this, he showed the towering mountain peaks, real giants around that, 15, 20,000 feet high, glaciers coming down, the forests of pine forests all around, and the river rushing by below our feet. He says, all of this, it just appears. There is nothing there. There is nothing there. Then what is there? You are there. You, the consciousness. In you, all this appears. And into you, it disappears. Exactly the teaching of the Mandukya Upanishad. Once, many years ago, there's a professor, I don't know if he's still alive, in one of our ashrams, this gentleman who used to be a professor of philosophy. And very intelligent person, extraordinary professor. Nobody ever knows him because he never wrote a book. Somebody asked him, You are brilliant. When you explain things, you're so brilliant. Why don't you publish papers or write books? And it seems a friend of mine, a monk, asked him, and this is the answer he got. The professor had a tendency to be dramatic. He said, Swami, you know, those who give a lot of talks, they can't write. That's like me, I think. And those who write a lot, they don't think. I think. I can think. Anyway, this professor was there in the ashram, and we had gone to visit him and some others with a very senior monk of our order who has since passed away, Swami Sarvapriyananda. He was a very scholarly monk. So when we went, we sat down to have tea, and the Swami in that ashram told the professor, well, professor, you can ask all your questions to this Swami. He's a very learned Swami, you can ask him. And we were all waiting to hear what kind of discussion would be there between the Swami and the professor. And the professor asked, how does one experience or practice Gaudapada's Ajatavada, the theory of non-origination? This absolutely crazy theory that the universe has not even originated. How is that possible? What does it mean? And the Swami gave a nice little example of what it means. He says, suppose a child has grown up in the forest and has never seen modern civilization. And then one day his father takes him to a village, and to the village headman's house. And there is a chair and a table. And the father explains, look my boy, this is a chair and this is a table. And the child looks and says, I see wood. Where is the chair and the table? I am seeing, this is wood. All of it is wood. Wherever you touch, whatever you do, it's wood. Where is the thing called the chair or the table? Now he says, Gaudapada looks at the universe in that way. Whatever you experience, hear, see, smell, taste, touch, he sees it as Brahman. Where is this thing you call the world? So he says, there is no origination of the world, there is no dissolution or cessation of the world. It is an appearance in consciousness. It's worthwhile quickly to take a look at these different theories of what is the relationship between matter and consciousness. The relationship between matter and consciousness. Before I tell you, silly joke which I can't resist. Any philosophy class, this is the first joke they will tell you. You know, mind and matter, the dualism, the Cartesian dualism between mind and matter. So the joke goes like this. What is mind? No matter. What is matter? Never mind. Stupid joke, anyway. But really, what is the relationship? Advaita is not interested in relationship between mind and matter. According to Advaita, even mind is matter. But what is the relationship between consciousness and matter? You may look a little puzzled. What is the difference between mind and matter and consciousness? In Advaita Vedanta, the definition is very clean, elegant and sharp. You know how consciousness and matter are defined in Advaita Vedanta? Very, very clear, and all of us, we experience it all the time. Anything that you experience or can experience as an object, this is matter. Anything. This table, matter. This hand, matter. This breath, because I can experience this, matter. Thought, ideas, memories, desires, matter. Why? Because the definition says if you can experience it as this thought, I can experience as this thought, it's matter. And what experience says and what can never be designated as this, that is consciousness. What is the definition? Whatever you can experience as this, that's matter. And what cannot be, what is the experiencer and yet cannot be objectified as this, that is consciousness. And you are consciousness, never matter. But what is the relationship between matter and consciousness? There are different theories. And this description I'm going to give you in 2 minutes. It was given by a monk many years ago in India who didn't even know English, had never studied modern science or Western philosophy, but within 2 or 3 minutes he gave such a wonderful survey of the entire field of matter and consciousness. I think even latest researchers today have not surpass that. What did he say? These are the possibilities. Relationship between matter and consciousness. One is, consciousness has come out of matter. Consciousness has come out of matter. That's one possibility. Which is this possibility? Materialism. Materialism, it says that the bodies are matter. Modern science, mainstream science holds bodies matter, nervous systems, brain, all matter, and they generate consciousness. So consciousness has come out of matter. If you ask, wait a minute, how does the brain generate consciousness? Then our neuroscientists will tell you, materialist philosophers will tell you, we don't know yet. Give us time, we will find out. They call it promissory materialism. Promissory materialism means I will give you a materialistic explanation, but I promise, give me 30, 40 years, we will come to it. But surely there is some material ground for consciousness. One leading philosopher, Galen Strawson, there was a very great one of the greatest British philosophers in the 20th century, P.F. Strawson. His son is also a great philosopher, Galen Strawson. He's in UT, Texas, University of Texas, Austin, UT Austin. He said, this idea that a physical system like the body can generate subjective experiences, consciousness, he says it's the silliest thing I've ever heard. He wrote an article saying, calling it the hard problem of matter. He says it's not a hard problem of consciousness. It's a very Advaitic approach. What he says is, we make up our minds, we have already assumed world exists, body exists, brain exists. Somehow brain is producing consciousness. We don't understand how. Hard problem of consciousness. But rather the other way around. Consciousness is the first thing that we experience. To experience anything, you must be conscious. So consciousness is the first thing that we have. We are aware. So awareness is the first thing. And then matter comes into our awareness. This world, body, mind, all of it comes into our awareness. He said what requires explanation is matter, not consciousness. And he says the more we investigate matter, the more matter is disappearing, vanishing before our eyes. Modern particle physics, we've gone down to atoms and subatomic particles and quarks, and now they're talking about superstrings and whatnot. Bottomless, unable to find. As he says, matter is disappearing before our eyes. Consciousness does not require an explanation. Matter requires an explanation. Alright. So, consciousness is originated from matter, materialistic theory. And in ancient India, this was the theory of the Charvakas, the ancient materialists. Second theory, the opposite. Matter has originated from consciousness. Advaita, no. Didn't we just read, didn't we just hear? No origination. So matter has not really originated from consciousness. No more than a pot has been really created out of clay. Matter originates from consciousness. Who says this? The theistic religions of the world. You might not think so, but imagine just recall what do they claim? All the theistic religions, the religions which believe in God, they all claim God created the universe. And if you ask them, is your God conscious or unconscious? Of course our God is conscious. They'll be upset. Of course God is conscious. God is sentient. And so God created the universe. Matter, energy, time and space were created by a sentient entity called God. But basically for our purposes, consciousness created matter. That's the second theory. The third theory is neither created the other. Consciousness and matter, Purusha and Prakriti, are parallel, are eternal realities. They interact, but they are independent and parallel realities. Sankhya and Yoga. The Yoga philosophy of Patanjali, the Sankhya philosophy of Kapila, they say consciousness is fundamental, matter is also fundamental, and they interact with each other. In fact, the latest understanding, we live in a very interesting time where this reductionism about consciousness is actually seriously being doubted. I mentioned David Chalmers earlier. David Chalmers is the head of the Consciousness Mind Brain Institute in NYU. He's the one who coined the term hard problem of consciousness. Hard problem of consciousness. he advocates a view called panpsychism. Panpsychism means this universe, matter, energy, time and space is real, but consciousness is also a fundamental reality. He says it's time to think of a crazy idea. He says it's impossible to explain consciousness through matter, so maybe we should entertain a crazy idea that perhaps just as matter and energy are fundamental, space and time are fundamental, in the same way consciousness also may be fundamental in the universe. Panpsychism. Of course, he's continuously attacked by many other philosophers and scientists. But anyway, at least some of the leading thinkers in this world today are seriously entertaining an idea which is pretty close. I was once in a discussion with, have you heard of Deepak Chopra? Yeah, he's a famous many areas, but once in New York, I was in a discussion with Deepak Chopra in a dialogue about Vedanta at the Rubin Museum. So when I mentioned David Chalmers' hard problem of consciousness, he said to me in private before this talk in the green room, he said, Swami, these guys, they are taking our ideas and they're not giving us credit. Hindu or Buddhistic ideas, Vedantic ideas, Buddhistic ideas, not giving us credit. I said it's good that they are not giving us credit, because moment a philosopher or a scientist says, I got it from Buddhism or I got it from Vedanta, the rest will dismiss it. Oh, he's become a religious nut, not worthy of being taken seriously. But if the scientist says, I have no affiliation with any kind of religion, and this I am coming to this conclusion through sheer hard thinking, through absolutely on a scientific and philosophical basis in a modern sense, with no reference to ancient thought, then everybody is forced to take cognizance. You can't dismiss this person so easily. So it's good. We don't want credit. We just want the ideas to be to go out there and be accepted. So this is the third option. Sankhya and yoga and today panpsychism. David Chalmers was interviewed once and about this hard problem of consciousness, and he said, he's very humorous. He's Australian. He's very humorous. He said, if you think about the problem of consciousness long enough, you will either become a panpsychist or you go into administration. That's the third option. There is a fourth option. The Mahayana, Tibetan Buddhists, the Mahayana Buddhists, what do they say? The emptiness people. Everything is empty. They say neither matter is real nor consciousness is real. They arise and disappear together. One of the great Madhyamaka Buddhist philosophers, Chandrakirti, who was a commentator on Nagarjuna, he gives a very beautiful example. He says, imagine sheaves of straw, bundles of straw, and the way they are kept is they lean against each other. They're kept like this. So a lot of straw tied together, you keep it like this. Now they lean against each other, they mutually support each other. And he says consciousness and matter are like that. Subject and object are like that. In waking and dreaming, you are the knower, this is known, and the two arise together and disappear together. Vedanta would say, no, consciousness is the witness of the absence of all objects in deep sleep. He would not agree. He would say in deep sleep, there is neither object nor subject. So that's their view. Both sides are empty and they are mutually dependent. Consciousness and matter are mutually dependent. What is the Vedanta view? What has Gaudapada been saying? The Vedanta view, the Mandukya Karika view is consciousness is fundamental and matter is an appearance. You can put it this way, matter is the dream of consciousness. The way consciousness experiences itself, that's matter. That example of God pretending to be not God. Anyway, so this is the meaning of neither origination nor cessation. In that sense, the universe has never really originated and there's no question of it ceasing either. Na baddha, there is no bondage and there is no freedom either. What does he mean? What does Gaudapada mean when he says there is no bondage, no freedom? I'm reminded of a classic story which the monks in the Himalayas, they talk about. From the ultimate point of view, pure consciousness is always free. There's no question of bondage or freedom. when one becomes enlightened, one does not feel that, oh, all this time I was in bondage, I was going through births and deaths and so much struggle, and finally I've got the prize, I'm enlightened, I'm free at last. No, that's not what will happen. What will happen is we realize, I was free all along, I never saw it. It was all right all the time. It's not that it was horrible for many lifetimes, for millions of years. Now it's good at last. No. We will realize it was good all through. There was never really any bondage, and so there was never really any question of freedom from real bondage. It reminds me of this story, which a favorite of the monks in the Himalayas, a story about, so you have to imagine a washerman, Indian washerman, not a washing machine. So Indian washerman, what they do is, they come to your house and they collect your clothes, your laundry, and they have a donkey. So they'll put the dirty clothes on the donkey and then go off to the next house and so on and make their rounds and collect and go back. And the next day they take all the dirty clothes to the riverside and they clean it. You wouldn't want to see what they do to your clothes. The way they beat it on the rocks. But they do clean it. I think it reduces the life of the clothes quite a bit, but they do clean it. And they spread it out on the rocks to make it dry. I've seen this. It's less and less now because washing machines are coming in and all of that. But I've seen this happen. They spread it out on the rocks on the side of the river and it dries out. Then they fold it nicely. They put it on the donkey and they drive the donkey back home. Next day they go on the round of distributing your clean clothes around again. So that's the system. Now this washerman, he had of course a donkey and he loaded the donkey and went to the riverside to clean the clothes, and then suddenly with alarm he realized he had forgotten to get the rope with which to tie the donkey to the tree. And now he can't go back to his village and get the rope again. Too much time will go and the time for washing the clothes. And yet he cannot let the donkey remain just like that because the donkey wanders off. He's a poor man and what is he going to do? And this educated gentleman from the village is walking by and, what's your problem? Why do you look so harassed? And this poor man says, washerman says, sir, what can I do? This is my problem. And this intelligent man, he says, don't worry. All you need to do is go to the donkey and pretend as if you've got a rope and pretend to tie the donkey. Let the donkey see that you're tying. Go through the motions. That's all. Yes, that's all. And so he does it. As if he's whipping out this rope and he's putting out the neck of the donkey and he's pulling the rope. There's nothing there. And the donkey is watching. You can imagine flapping the big ears. And he ties it to the tree as if there's nothing there. And the donkey is watching. And then he takes the clothes and is walking to the river and looking back at the donkey, and donkey is also looking back at him. But doesn't move. And he cleans the clothes once in a while. He's nervous. He looks at the donkey. The donkey is still standing there munching grass, not moving, as if he's tired. And in the evening he has finished his work and happily he loads the donkey and says, shoo, let's go. The donkey doesn't move. And he rushes to the gentleman in the village and says, sir, what trouble I am in? If it was tied, I could have untied it. But it's not tied, so I can't untie it. Gaudapada actually says this. If there was a samsara, it could be removed. There is no samsara. So it's untied. What do I do now? And the man said, it's pretty easy. Just pretend to untie it. Just go through the motions. That's all. And he goes and does that, and the donkey is watching, and afterwards he says, shoo, and the donkey happily moves along. Gaudapada says our bondage and liberation are like that. So if you think that, if it's that simple, it's pulling a fast one on me, a trick. In that case, I need not do anything. I know I'm not in bondage. Won't work. As long as you deeply feel that I am this body, that I am this mind, and I have so many troubles in life, we are well and thoroughly bound. Whether the rope is there or not, we are bound. And so we have to go through the process of freeing ourselves. Even if the process is just, it's an appearance, still the process has to be gone through. So that is the idea of bondage and liberation in Gaudapada. He says, na sadhakaha. There is no one who is doing spiritual practice. The Sanskrit word sadhaka, there are some allied words. Sadhana. Sadhana means spiritual practice. Any kind of practice is sadhana, but spiritual practice specifically. So prayer and yoga and meditation, worship, these are all sadhana. And this, what we are doing now, contemplating Vedanta, this is also sadhana. And there is something called sadhya. Sadhya means the goal. So I am the sadhaka, the one who employs an instrument, sadhana, or sadhan or sadhana, to reach a goal, sadhya. So for example, we all came here to Sivananda Yoga Ashrama. This is our goal, sadhya. And what is the means we employed? We took the boat from Nassau. We took a plane to Bahamas and then the boat from Nassau. And that is the sadhana or sadhana, what the practice that we did to come here. And therefore we are sadhaka. So we have a goal to achieve, and we are the practitioner of a particular practice or an instrument which will take us to the goal. None of it will get us to liberation. That's what Shankaracharya says. He says, what can be done through practice? Any kind of action. What can action do? He says action can do 4 things. One is utpadya, apya, vikarya, samskarya. Utpadya means produce. You can produce something. A farmer produces wheat in the field. Will produce something. Can you produce the Atman? I am not pure consciousness. I am just this little Sarvapriyananda, but I have heard there is the 4th, pure consciousness. Can I produce it by some action? No. It's either there or nothing. It's there already. You can't produce it. Apya, can I attain it? Can I go somewhere? Remember, we talked about spirituality in Advaita Vedanta not being a journey in space, not being a journey in time. You cannot go anywhere. It cannot be attained. So you can attain the Bahamas. You can fly to the Bahamas. That is Apya. But your nature as pure consciousness, where will you go to attain it? One teacher put it beautifully. Here you are, sitting. Where will you go? Which direction will you move to reach there? Which direction? Suppose I am here and my goal is to reach here. Now which direction should I move? Whichever direction I move, I am moving away from the reality. You cannot attain it by work, by any kind of practice. Can I change it? Vikarya. The 3rd thing you can do is change. So, for example, the example Shankaracharya uses is milk is changed into curd, yogurt, by a process. That's called vikara. So I am this guy, Sarvapriyananda. Can I change myself into Turiya, Brahman, pure consciousness? You can't do that. And then the last one is samskarya, improvement, refinement. There is crude oil in the earth, and then it's a huge and complicated process of extraction and refinement until we get something useful. Similarly, I am an impure, sinful creature. Can I refine myself? Can I scrub myself and rub myself till I am the shiny Brahman or something like that? No, that can't be done too. None of the things which can be done by action apply to Brahman, our real nature. But here is the thing to understand. Shankaracharya is not speaking out against spiritual practice. In Shankaracharya's system, Gaudapada system too, spiritual practice has a role. Karma yoga purifies the mind. It is a practice which is required to purify the mind. Not the Atman. The Atman is ever free, ever pure. But the mind has to be purified. In the Himalayas, the monks sometimes have a greeting, the non-dualistic monks. They have a greeting for each other. The greeting is, "Oh monk, is the mirror clear?" Darpan Saf is the mirror clear. Mirror is mirror of the mind, mirror of the heart. Is that clear? Because that's where realization happens. Purification of mind can be done by practice. Meditation, yoga, is meant for a concentration of mind. The purified mind is concentrated by yoga. But the realization of our real nature, that cannot be done by any kind of action. That is only through knowledge. It exists and we only have to uncover it through knowledge. So that is na sadhaka. From the ultimate point of view, there is no spiritual practitioner also. No mumukshu. There is nobody the mumukshu is an interesting word. It means the desire for freedom. And it's considered to be essential for spiritual practice. the desire for enlightenment, the desire to attain moksha, nirvana. The word mumukshu comes from moksha. Literally it means desire for freedom. There's a very beautiful analysis of this. I'll share that with you. Because we do not know ourselves as Sat, pure being, which is immortal, we try to live as this body. We don't know that we are the immortal Sat, pure being, Brahman. Therefore, we try to live as a cling to life. I want to live. In Sanskrit, this is called jijivisha, clinging to life. I want to live in this body, and not just in this body. Somehow, and if possible, the body also should be perfect and nice. There is a shop, clothes shop called Forever 21. There's a shop. I like the name. I haven't seen the shop, but I like the name because that is such a desire of, for we want the body. I want to remain in this body, as this body, and in a perfect shape. 21 years old. Not possible. It's an ever-flowing river. It's a foolish thing to do. You are already immortal. What are you afraid of? You're afraid of getting old and dying. You will not get old and you will not die. You are older than you think you are. You are really, really ancient. But the Atman is also ever new. Purana. There's a word Purana which is used for, some texts are called Puranas, but the Atman is also called Purana, the self. It means Pura Pinava, ancient yet ever new. And that's your nature, that's my real nature. Pure consciousness is ancient, older than the universe itself, and yet ever new. We try to hold on to the body because we do not know our real nature as pure being, immortal being. We do not know our real nature as pure consciousness, Chit. And therefore, we try to know things in detail in the world, thinking thereby, if I can increase my storehouse of knowledge of the world, I will be satisfied and fulfilled. This is called jigyasa, desire to know. So desire to know things little by little. Lifelong trial of trying to get more and more knowledge ends with frustration. Who was the great scientist who said that I feel that I'm living on an island, little bit I know here in this island, and there's a vast ocean of ignorance all around me. The more I know, the more I'm beginning to understand how much I do not know. If you try to know things in detail in this universe, there's no end to it. Nobody ever comes to an end. Jigyasa, because we do not know ourselves as pure consciousness, which is the light behind all knowledge. And because we do not know ourselves as Ananda, pure bliss, we do not know that we are bliss. We are absolutely full, complete, Purnam. Not knowing that, we go around the world with a hat in hand, begging for a little happiness here, little happiness there. It's our own happiness which we have lent to objects and people and things in the world, and then we beg for it back from them. A little cookie here, a few words of praise there, a little success there, I'm fulfilled. And chasing after it endlessly. It's your own happiness, it's your own bliss that you're looking for it from the world outside. This is called in Sanskrit bubhuksha, the desire to enjoy. The desire to enjoy these little sense pleasures here and there. Why? Because we do not know our Ananda Swarupam, our nature as Ananda. Because we do not know that we are Sat, there is Jijivisha, clinging to life. Because we do not know that we are Chit, there is Jigyasa, trying to know things little by little in the world. And because we do not know we are Ananda, there is this bubhuksha, desire to, this hunger, petty hunger for enjoying this, enjoying that, one after another, trying to be happy with that. In order to counter these three, clinging to life, trying to know separately this world by little, and trying to get enjoyment through senses, satisfaction through sense pleasures, in order to counteract jijivisha, jigyasa and bubhuksha, a term comes, Vedanta puts forward, mumuksha. Mumuksha means trying to get freedom from these things. Trying to get freedom from these things. When we realize what we are, we realize we always were free. So mumuksha is not necessary anymore. That's why Gaudapada says, in your real nature, there is no need for mumuksha also. Shankaracharya sings in Nirvana Shatakam, na dharmo, na chartho, na kamo, na moksha. I do not want the conventional religion, dharma. I do not want pleasure, I do not want wealth. But then at the end he says, I do not want moksha. What could he mean? Moksha means spiritual freedom. He says, I do not want that also. Why? Chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. Because I am of the nature of existence, consciousness, bliss. Moksha is not something that I have to attain. It is ever attained. It is my very nature. So na mumukshu, na muktaha. But always remember, ityesha paramarthata. This is the ultimate truth. From the ultimate perspective, this is our real nature. From the transactional perspective, vyavaharika, all continues and should continue. Vote unto us if we suddenly decide, oh, I don't need any spiritual practice. No. Complete misunderstanding. Until you get the realization that you are Brahman, till that point, the pursuit should continue. Pursuit should continue. The seeking and the practice must continue. Otherwise, suffering is our lot. One more point at the end. The Swamis, they put it very humorously in Hindi. I tried to translate into English. After talking about all of this, one of the teachers, masters, he said, Mr. Vedanta, in Hindi he said, Vedanta Babu, Mr. Vedanta or Master Vedanta, you have said world is false, spiritual seeking is false, spiritual practices are false, liberation is false. What about you? Are you real or false? Vedanta itself. And Vedanta has the absolute honesty to say, I too am false. I am also an appearance. And I am also to be discarded when you are enlightened. God help you. Nobody can help you if you discard me before enlightenment. At enlightenment, when you realize, I am Atma Brahma, the Mandukya Upanishad says that this very self is Brahman. At that time, you can let Vedanta go also. I pray to the Lord that enlightenment, that breakthrough comes in our lives and that we can manifest that realization in our thought, word and deed, become a blessing unto ourselves and a blessing unto humanity in this very lifetime itself. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat.
I would like to thank very much Swami Sarvapriyananda. Let's give him a big hand.
Pranaram, 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 Pranaram. Ki jeno lukano nametai mishtoyato tabo nam. Pranaram, 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 Pranaram.